more and more today, entrepreneurs are coming from all different places.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We know that geographically from all different places, different gender, different race, different everything. I'm trying to find some sort of relationship, some sort of common ground.
In today's segment, we'll be discussing how venture capitalists can form and maintain a strong relationship with their startup founders. One of the things that I found really cool about your questioning when you meet founders for the first time and you're, thinking about whether you want to invest in them, you seem to focus a lot on the dynamics of their family, where what's their relationship like with their parents or their siblings. And I was curious, what are you trying to get out of them? Or what is the thing you're looking for when you try to understand their dynamics?
Well, first of all, I'm not trying to scare anybody. And also I don't have the right to ask them these, not trying to pry into your family life.
For sure. Sorry about that, by the way.
No, not at all. I'm saying I don't want a founder to come in and go, oh my God, he's going to ask me about my mother.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is I'm just trying to understand a little bit about who the hell you are. You walk in and we're meeting for the first time and I've seen your deck and I got introduced by you to this person. It's and in 5 minutes in, you're just looking at a deck. It's who are you? And I won't find out in an hour, of course, but it'd be nice to have some sort of discourse.
Yeah.
And it could be about anything. And I'm not trying to find out what your political affiliation is or other stuff. It's just kind of how'd you get here? How did you get to my office? Or how did I get to your office, to use an old phrase? We don't use, how did I get in front of you? How'd this happen? And so I love to hear the story and weave in, and I will find, this is where this might be an advantage for me when I'm trying to win deals or something. I'm going to find some common ground. And so that's really what I'm looking for, because now more and more today, entrepreneurs are coming from all different places, geographically from all different places, different gender, different race, different everything, different political background. There's a lot of different areas to come from in such a short period of time. And we're being asked to just give you money and set up this relationship. I'm trying to find some sort of relationship, some sort of common ground. I mean, for example, we want a deal in Louisiana. We want a deal, just to go back to your point. We have this great company called Gilded.Finance, which is a Web3 company, which is based out of New Orleans. We have never looked at a deal in Louisiana. We've never been to New Orleans. And I'm telling you, when I told him, I'm I used to live in Lafayette. He's like, what? What? For an hour, I could talk to this kid about, I shouldn't call him a kid, but he knows what I mean. We talked about Louisiana and how I used to go into New Orleans with my dad to go to the New Orleans Saints games, and we used to wear the bags over their heads. They were so bad, and we'd go water skiing in the Lake Pontchartrain, and we were afraid of the water moccasins. I'm telling you, that guy was I don't think I've met another VC that could talk to me about Lafayette or New Orleans. Now, that was just lucky. But I wouldn't have known had I not gotten into it. Let's have this conversation about who you are and what drives you, and things like that.
Well, it also sounds too because you had such an open mind around hanging out with different families and being sort of around that, you had lots of experiences growing up, and then now later on you're able to relate those back to people that are going through similar things, and being able to connect with you don't have that many meetings to really build a bond. So it's kind of a weird concept that once you agree to work with these founders, it's not a 1 week or 2 week relationship. It's almost a decade in some cases that you are focused on that relationship, if not more. Yeah.
And we have, you can talk to Jim as well at some point, or even Brett Brewer. I know you talked to him recently. When you've been around for a while, these founders, Brett and I invested in a company called Lettuce in 2012, which is Rod Mobram.
Yeah.
He's about to have a baby. He's gotten married. He's met a girl. He's gotten married. He's about to have a baby. He's bought a house since I've known him, right? That's the 20th founder that's gone through this. The amount of kids that have come since
Uncle Mark is
true. Since I've met them. So I've really watched, these 25-year-olds grow into 40-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 32-year-olds. They've really grown through ups and downs in their lives, both being a founder as well as a family person or whatever's going on in their life. It doesn't have to be family. But I've seen all these people more than I see the friends I grew up with anymore, of course. And so it would be weird not to have some sort of personal relationship with some of these founders who you've been working with for years.
You have like bonfire fuel core principles, core values. Like I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but one of the core values that you wrote down is we are always honest, whether you like it or not. And I like loved that saying. You know, how are you able to differentiate between like, hey, like we're friends, or I'm colleagues, like we're partners, and like, hey, things aren't going well and I've got like my own fiduciary duties or whatever. How do you navigate that when you're already such a people person and like you obviously like to like have strong relationships? Doesn't that get hard sometimes to differentiate the two?
Every company has its moments for sure. And some never make it. Like, you know, like we lose companies and I will tell you that in certain cases, we don't have relationships with the founders anymore. And so that's maybe us or maybe them. I don't know. But some of it has a lot to do with experience. We've just been around. We've dealt with so many founders of many different types from many different places I was talking about. You just have you develop a toolbox, right? You've developed tools to motivate at the right time, to be frustrated with at the right time, to yell at the right time. Yelling is not one of our strong points, but sternness may come across for me. To cry with. We really are psychologists in some ways and just mentors and at the same time shoulders to be with, right? And so as long as you're providing that group of tools, that set of tools, it allows you to do it in an honest way, meaning I don't want to pick on companies, but I give you examples of everything, right?
Yeah.
And I love all these guys. And, you know, there's situations where, look, you're all excited. I get it. You did this quarter. I get it. This is the first out of 8 quarters that you actually hit your numbers. Let's just be honest here. You know, like, okay, I love you for what you've just done. We really worked hard. But let's keep going. Let's put the gas down because you need to continue to do this. Now imagine if they hadn't done that quarter, I'd been saying for 7 quarters, working just as hard, helping just as much. You gotta make it. Like you can't keep telling me the number that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's the honesty part that comes up without being mean. And if you do it the right way, the founder, she should be going, you're right.
Kind of right. Yeah.
You're right. And I appreciate it. And we often hear this when founders do really like to be told yes or no. But the no part, when you turn down deals, which all VCs do all the time, really does matter. You just think of anything you're doing of yourself. Think if you're having a birthday party.
Yeah.
And you're having 10 people and, 9 people say yes or no. And that 10th just won't let you know. It's just not honest. It's not like fair. And so if that 10th person tells you no, you're like, okay, thanks for letting me know. And so that's back to just having the tool set and the experience. And basically, we're just humans too, right? I mean, VCs, I came at VC as an outsider and I like to play the outsider VC card, to be honest. Like I didn't get into VC because I always wanted to be a venture capitalist.
Yeah, right.
There are a lot of great actors in the business. There are a lot of bad actors. There are fewer bad actors. There are fewer bad actors in every business. So it's not a picking on venture capital. But I think there are, I've been surprised. There are some well-known venture capitalists who I read about when I first started and had a negative impression of, and now know them and have a very positive impression. So there's just kind of this shield that VCs put on, I think, which is kind of normal because we're always saying no. Yeah. You have to say no, and you're trying to, and then you always have to be on with all of your other founders. So I think there's some humanness to venture capitalists. And so why I think that, at least for now, Bonfire is having a very positive run is because Jim and I and Brett in particular, we have a ton of experience. And our experiences are real in terms of investment structure, how to set up your sales compensation plan, how to go to market, how to interview somebody. All that stuff's real, but we also have life experience.
The soft skills that you can't necessarily wrap your hands around.
Yeah. And so that's something that we think we're doing pretty well. I guarantee you can find a founder that maybe thought I was a jerk at one point. That's fine. But I wasn't trying to be. If I'm a jerk to you, it's It's because it's over. Right? It's because it's over. We have this thing that keeps happening with us, which is great, which is very often we get feedback from founders, whether we invest in them or not, that you guys are different. And sometimes we're like, is that good or bad?
Yeah.
And it's what they say is the way you guys ask questions, the way you respect the founder, the way you dig deep in trying to understand certain things, just ask questions that have never been asked before. And we're a little bit, that's how I get a little bit down on the VC industry. I'm like, anybody doing due diligence? I know who the good ones are, but I'm just saying, like, why don't people ask those questions? And I think that we appreciate getting that type of feedback, which just kind of makes us think that we're generating relationship with the founders in our question and answer process that's different than they're getting from most VCs.
Is it because of those reps and that experience, or do you think that like that's part of just what makes you special? One of the questions that I ask or will ask later on, but I could bring up to the front right now is I was recently having a conversation with a founder friend, and he was talking to me about this concept of your geniuses versus your excellences, and that very high performing people have lots of excellences across the board, but there's very few geniuses that like really make you special. What do you think are your geniuses?
Maybe not me, but I think that I would, and when I add Tyler and Jen into the equation, who also, they're completely different from the perspective of what their backgrounds are and how they don't mesh with ours from the perspective of relationships. So when we went out to hire our two principals, it was, I want somebody that we don't know. Okay?
Why? What was the logic behind
I have a huge network. So does Jim and Brett. Like, they don't need to cross over. I don't want to, if I hire Jen and we have 400 of the same LinkedIn, what does that do for us as a team, as a relationship for for networking?
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to have any relationship, because that's how you don't diversify, right? Like,
for sure.
I have plenty of people that wanted to work for Bonfire that we already knew.
Isn't there something to be said about like when people, there's like a trust or a speed? Joel and I have known each other now for 15 years, and like, I'm not saying that that's the right way at all. Is there like, do you not worry that you lose anything not having that? Obviously, the network makes it big.
It is one risky way to go about it. Now, of course, with Tyler and specifically, he applied for an internship, and that's how we got to know him. So I got to know him from working for us. And then Jen was highly recommended to us by several of my buddies in LA, like Marlon and Austin. I'm an investor in both their funds. Like, there was a lot of DNA touching her. From relationships of mine. So there was a lot of trust in terms of her reputation and before I ever got to meet her. And so that's helpful, but we don't have any crossover. Like, her colleges, her LinkedIn, et cetera. We just didn't have any crossover. So the point is that we were trying to add different opinions, different ways to look at things into our group. Because if you just let me, Jim and Brett, who are very different people, dominate a phone call or dominate a presentation, we'll
work as a unit together and not have like an outside perspective.
Yeah. So we want to have a different perspective. It's not outside, right. It's just different and so they both worked at CAA, which is strange. Tyler and Jen
still very like people oriented.
They were both out of college assistants, which if you've heard of anybody they work them to death.
Yes.
Which I loved. As a former investment banker, like, I want to know that they had to work hard at something.
Yeah.
And whether they liked it or not, and most of them don't. Right. So they really had to work hard. They really had to check their egos, to get through the CAA, the CAA program. So that proved a lot to me in terms of what their, the basic skill set and ability to work hard was. And then they went to different parts of the country for school. They focused on different things. One's a man, one's a woman. Like, there's a lot of different outlooks and opinions coming from that team. And that really helped diversify our opinions as a 5-person team. And so when you start to throw that 5-person team onto a founder, we hope that founder is getting some sort of differentiation.
For sure. And it feels like a more complete package and not just like, one dominant kind of voice coming through. Stick around for the next segment where Mark chats about the origin of Mull Capital, Double M Partners, and Bonfire Ventures. He also shares investment strategies for a successful venture fund. Hope to see you there.